Beach parking.
Yeah.
That's my thing. You knew I was going to go there eventually, right? Personally, I am offended by the fact that, and you're going to get my side of the story, the fact that Holmes Beach, when the pandemic started, the county commissioners at the time, I was not a county commissioner at the time, but in fact there's only one commissioner on the board now who was there during the pandemic. So, and she voted against all this stuff. She's on our side.
Hi, this is the mayor from the city of Holmes Beach. My name is Judy Titsworth, and on March the 7th, the commission chair, Kevin Van Ostenbridge, gave a speech to the Manatee Patriots. And this was brought to my attention that there was a lot of statements made regarding the city of Holmes Beach, and in his speech he said this was his opinion. He was certain that I would have my opinion as well. But instead of giving you my opinion today, I'd like to share with you the facts. The first item that Kevin brought up was talking about the pandemic and the closures to the beach. And so I would first like to address that.
All of the on-street parking. They put up no parking on all these streets, and that meant that then only the rich people who lived at the beach could go to the beach, kind of like the people who go out boating, right? And so, in my opinion, the island, the Holmes Beach in particular, it was a pretty good deal. Private island, essentially, right? I mean, you know, get rid of riffraff. And
the first comments that were made were regarding the city of Holmes Beach's response to the pandemic. It was actually Manatee County employees that locked the gates at the parking lots and at the Manatee Public Beach and installed concrete barriers preventing people to park at the Kingfish boat ramp.
Anna Maria, Bradenton Beach opened back up. Even the county commissioners opened up the parks again. Holmes Beach held out.
Just as soon as the orders were lifted, the city of Holmes Beach opened up street beach access parking in lock and step with the Manatee County employees.
And I said, you know, we should talk, because if they don't return these parking spaces, they're about 2,000 spaces. So I said, if they don't return these parking spaces, we should not participate in beach renourishment going forward. I mean, there are beaches. Why are we paying for their beach at this point? If it's not our beach, it's their beach. So there was some back and forth, and I went out there and visited and talked. It got their attention, so they said, oh, come on out. So I went out and we drove around. And
beach nourishment funding. Holmes Beach is in compliance with parking for beach nourishment. The commissioner never came out for a review, and we never reinstated any back to bare minimum. This never happened. We are required to have 500 parking spaces for our interlocal agreement, which also includes the public beach. Holmes Beach provides 775 spaces. We have always had numerous bike racks at beaches. This was a requirement many years ago by the county for beach nourishment funding. Trolley stops are also required.
They returned the bare minimums, because there are state requirements that where there's a beach access point, there's one here, within a quarter mile, you have to have a certain number of parking spaces. And they did.
I offered to physically mark beach access parking and provide maps online. I also volunteered to work with a company to develop an app to help people find parking that is still available as technology continues to improve.
So we go back and forth. They had a lot of legitimate complaints. They had issues with, they said people were throwing trash in their yards. You know, rude people were coming out there who don't live there, who don't care. I get it. And people were letting their kids change, and next to the car, and they said that was public nudity. And then people were peeing in the sea oats, and too much traffic. That was a big one. There's way too many people coming out, too much traffic.
Parking spaces on residential streets were redistributed so that the majority was in walking distance to the public beach for public safety and health concerns. We currently have over 400 parking spaces at the public beach and over 400 parking spaces within close proximity to the beach in residential neighborhoods, of which over 200 are not currently being used, even on the most highly used beach weekends. We currently have more capacity than needed.
So finally I said, you know what? I could close Manatee Avenue for these same reasons. There's definitely too much traffic. there's people littering along Manatee Avenue, I guarantee it. I'm sure somewhere along, probably someone I'm related to, has peed on the side of Manatee Avenue at some point or another. You know, I mean, you know, we can come up with all the same excuse. You close Manatee Avenue, it doesn't work. And they said, well, there's just too many people.
Regarding Manatee Avenue, the commission chair is actually comparing narrow residential roads in our island communities, our neighborhoods, to Manatee Avenue, which is State Road 64, to make his point about why we shouldn't be concerned about the lack of restroom facilities and traffic congestion.
I didn't realize they just put city cans there and Waste Pro is their carrier, and on Tuesdays and Monday or Thursdays, whatever their trash days are, it's the only time they got empty. And so they're like overflowing all weekend. I said, well, hell, we'll do that. That's no big deal. So we got property management out there to empty the cans for them over spring break. And they loved it. I said, great, we need some spaces back now. And they said, no. And I said, well, that's the end of that.
Regarding Waste Pro, the county has never offered to continue helping with waste pickup at the beach ends. Never. This has never happened.
Had a good meeting. That's a long, boring story. I'm sorry. But we had a good meeting with Holmes Beach. Me, Boyd, Senator Boyd called the meeting. Robinson came.
There was a meeting in May of 2022 with Boyd and Robinson, and Commissioner Chair also invited himself to this meeting. I presented a PowerPoint so all would have the facts regarding the parking that was provided and the limitations that we have in our small residential streets. I use this time to educate all on the visitors that we can accommodate in our city, which totals over 12,000 people in cars, when including all of our resort housing, homes, and also our hotels.
So we do Robinson and the 3 island mayors and Boyd and myself, and in the end they said, you know, you have to build a parking garage. There's no other way around it. You've got to build a parking garage. It's the only way to, you know, to get some of these people out of the neighborhoods. And so we agree, and I said, well, if I go to the commission and I can convince them to do a parking garage, Holmes Beach, you can design it. We don't care what it looks like. It's your city. You design it. I said to the mayor, she said, well, I don't think they'll go for it. And I said, well, will you help me pitch it to them so that we can come up with some kind of a solution here? And she hemmed and hawed, and Robinson said, we need an answer on this parking garage before we leave, because that was your idea. You said this was going to be a solution. And the mayor said, yes, she would help me pitch the garage once I got the board, our county commission, on board.
I also informed them that a paid multi-level parking garage was not an allowable use in our city, and provided them the interpretation prepared by our planner. I told them the commission would have to change zoning for this to be accomplished. It was a great meeting, and I have almost accomplished all that I was asked.
Fine. 2 weeks later, on a Holmes Beach city council agenda, is banning parking garages.
Unfortunately, the one item that Commissioner Van Ostenbridge was supposed to do, he never did. The commissioner never brought forth a site plan for consideration. He's accused me of passing an ordinance eliminating multi-story parking garages just 2 weeks after this meeting. But anyone who really wants to do the fact checks can see that the meeting that took place was in May, and the parking garage ordinance was not placed on the agenda until late July, early August. And it was in reference to a commercial application regarding the old Wells Fargo property.
Man, and the mayor and we're going to be on the same page. We're going to be like standing next to each other, you know, working towards the same goal.
I assumed that with all that I had completed, that the parking issues were behind us, as there was no further communication between us. But in actuality, I think it's because the commission chair just did not want to have to ask.
And I was like fuming, and I got up there and I probably was too strong with my language. But I was clear. I said there will be consequences.
The consequences that the commission chair is referring to in his speech to the Holmes Beach City Commission is the weaponizing of the county government and elimination of all funding for the city.
You know, they've passed a lot of draconian laws. They've banned the rental of any motorized vehicle in Holmes Beach.
The city does not have safe infrastructure, which is bike lanes and multi-use paths on the majority of our roads. For many of the motorized scooters and trikes that were popping up all over the country, it was becoming highly unsafe for every vacationer wanting to utilize these motorized scooters and low motorized trikes. The island cities were becoming inundated with them. We felt we had to do something to get a handle on it, as did the other cities.
Oh, now there's another law that says when you park on the side of the street in Holmes Beach, know this, you have to have all 4 tires off of the pavement.
All tires off the road. This is the same law in Braden Beach and the city of Anna Maria. It's due to having narrow roads and right-of-ways and the inability to get emergency vehicles, garbage trucks, and delivery vehicles through. These roads are also highly used by multimodal transportation by our thousands of guests and visitors. This law is for public safety and to be consistent with the other cities and the high use by vacationers.
So if you're familiar with the Palmasola Causeway, they've banned all these rentals. And so now there's like jet ski rentals all over the causeway, and there's all these different, well, they all got chased out of Holmes Beach. And so now they got nowhere to go, so they go to the causeway.
The Anna Maria cities do not allow private enterprise on our beaches. You will not find horseback riding or jet ski rentals, and I don't really feel that people want that. I have no idea why the commissioner is blaming the city of Holmes Beach for what's happening at the causeways.
But eventually this stuff catches up with you, and now the state is on it, and they're seeing budget exploding in Holmes Beach. They're paying $5.9 million a year for the Holmes Beach Police Department.
Police budget. Over 30,000 cars come to our city each day. Our police force is adequate. The commissioner has no experience in this department, but is more than welcome to visit our chief of police and become educated.
For the city of Holmes Beach. The city of Anna Maria is just to the north, and they're paying the sheriff's office to cover their city, and they pay 1.2. And I asked the sheriff, how much would it be to cover Holmes Beach? And he said 1.2.
Although the city of Holmes Beach each year asks to increase our interlocal agreement for beach patrol, it has been turned down ever since Commissioner Van Ostenbridge has been in office.
Extremely wasteful spending going on. Their budget's $25 million is their annual budget. Holmes Beach itself is it's like 4 miles long, 3.7 miles long, and a $25 million budget.
The annual budget. The commissioner accuses us of having a wasteful budget. Well, that is very unfortunate, since he's never once come to discuss our budget with me or the city treasurer. The commissioner has only come to City Hall 3 times during his entire tenure. He is including our total reserves as operating and isn't accounting for the millions in dollars we have received in grant funding for many of our infrastructure improvements.
So I mean, you start thinking about these things and this stuff starts to add up, right? And it's like, man, they're spending an awful lot of money out there. People aren't really getting the services. People aren't really getting the
services. We are proud to always be able to provide all services to our citizens and guests. There has not been one time we have not been able to provide a service.
Anna Maria is not Longboat. And it's just not, I mean, you live on Longboat, there's a difference between Longboat and Anna Maria, right? I mean, it's just, Anna Maria is just not the same.
The commission chair stated that he's sad for the city. In stating all of these facts, I feel I must address this statement. The commission chair does not feel sad for the city of Holmes Beach. The narrative he is using is to paint the city of Holmes Beach as an us against them. This is a tactic used to create a divide between the county and the cities, particularly that of the city of Holmes Beach. This is unfortunate, as he is the city's representative, and this has been his mode of operation since his first day in office.
Anyway, that's the fun stuff going on. And we're looking for a new county administrator if anybody's looking for a job.
In closing, it appears that the commissioner continues to have a personal vendetta against a city in which he has deep family roots. One day, I hope he finds a willingness and a healthy relationship with the cities he represents and forego the exhausting false narratives.